All right, testing, testing, one, two, three. Testing, 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 one, two, three. Looks like we are up and running. Testing, 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 one, two, three. All right. Mr. Magoo has stopped in. Right. Got a few people stopping by, hopping in and out. So let's see who is here. We've got Frederick Crawford. Hello, Frederick. Vitor dos Santos. Hello, Vitor. Hello, Biker Day. Hi, folks. Chocolate Yoddah here, spelled Y-O-D-D-A-H, because film studios are litigious. Today is July 1st, 2025. And we have a whole bunch of stuff going on, as always. Biker D has joined. Nene has joined. I assume that's how you say it. All right. We have Apple user 2479 has come and gone. Jesus Dorito or Jesus Dorito come and gone. So my question tonight is democracy over? I'm going to get some thoughts about that as people join. All right, let's just see. So I did not check in the last hour or two as to what's going on with the bill, with Trump's horrendous bill. Boy, some interesting usernames in here. All right, let's see. Oh, wow. All right, so, um, let's see. Who else is here? A few people have trickled in. Tampa Boo, L, The Bite, Exploit. These are the times I need like theme music or something. But anyway, let me see about bringing in some people. So we have Dan Waring Sr. stopped in. Vicky, Kelly, hello, hello. We are going to get up and running momentarily. Just have a couple of housekeeping things that I have to do real quick. And just like that, it's done. I can concentrate on you guys. So, is not eligible for what? Live visibility restricted. What? Unoriginal or reproduced content. What are they talking about? It's just me. That's weird. Oh, that's a first. They're saying my live contains unoriginal stuff, and meanwhile, it's just me. That is the weirdest thing. Bassman says, oh, this host loves to push misinformation. Oh, there's so many inaccuracies there, but Bassman, why don't you come up and tell me? Oh, I can't invite you, but you can invite yourself, I suppose, unless you have some kind of restriction, but come and tell me how I love to push misinformation. All right, and Mike is joining us. Loading up.
Yoddah!
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing very well, man. Loving
Quiet
life.
night. Yes.
Quiet in what sense?
Now, Megan's not too stirred up tonight.
Meg is not too stirred. All right.
No.
Well,
I mean, there's a
I don't
storm
know. I
out
mean,
there.
I haven't been on too many lives today, so you could be
Yeah.
right.
Yep. I was on one earlier today and it was very active, but I just left one and it's just like we had like three come up, but they didn't last too long.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
They were
Bassman.
nonstop.
I'm sorry. Hold on a second, Mike. Bassman. Yeah, I'm not accusing you of anything. So that was someone from the chat. But I did invite you up. If you want to come up and tell me what you think I've said, or because tonight I haven't really said anything. But if you think I love to push misinformation, sounds like you think you know how I feel, and that's kind of weird. Oh, wow. We already got my first live goal. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. All right. This is so strange. Well, I don't know what's going on. Yesterday, it didn't register any likes. Like normally I get like 20 to 30,000 likes for
Yeah.
the live in a 2-hour period. And it said that I only got 327 last night, so that
Oh,
was weird.
wow.
Yeah, I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on with that.
That is weird.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It could have been a glitch, or it could have been something else. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Justin. That was very generous of you. Um, and you know what, Justin? If you would like, I will invite you up. Feel free to come up if you want to. If not, you can hang out in the chat. That's fine too. I have watched your live. I know what you have said. Okay, Bassman, instead of chirping away in the chat, why don't you come up and talk to me like a big boy and, tell me what's on your mind? It's okay if you disagree with me. I have plenty of people that disagree with me. I just hope
That's
that you
what
have
life's
some
about.
facts to back up what you're talking about. You said Dump is taking Medicaid from children. Not true. Oh, really? So when you reduce Medicaid by almost $1 trillion, um, and I don't think I specifically said Medicaid from children, but he is taking away Medicaid. So if
Yes.
that's your whole thing, if you're stuck on the word children, okay. If I did say that, that might be inaccurate, but he is still taking away. Look, Bassman, you're not coming up. You're just chirping from the cheap seats. So I'm going to say
Well,
goodbye to you.
I do say that he's taking food away from children by cutting SNAP,
Yeah, exactly.
and he's taking it from senior citizens.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't understand what that argument is about. Like, clearly,
No.
people are losing benefits, And
Well,
if you're quibbling about whether it's children or not, okay, fine. But the fact is that
he's
he's
taking
taking away
benefits
benefits
away.
from people.
Yes, yes. It's just like I was just on another live, and I told him I'm worried in Nepal because he took HEAP away, and I depend on HEAP.
Right.
I'm a senior citizen, and I can't afford a huge electric bill and gas bill.
Yeah, Justin is pointing out that the number now is 14 million Americans. Yeah, I've heard that number too. We're talking about human lives. At the end of the
Yeah,
day, forget about Republican, forget about Democrat. Everybody is being affected by this. This is not a good thing.
yeah, and
Uh,
and and 14 million, one losing benefits is too many in my book.
100%. And there's no good reason for this. That's the thing that upsets me
No,
the most is
well, the
that,
reason is so the billionaires can get their tax cuts.
yeah, I mean, that's all it is. I don't understand why anyone's for this who's not a billionaire, you know. Let's see if
Well, they think it's not going to affect them.
yeah, let's see. You can check out the da, da, da. I'm setting another live goal just for the heck of it. This automatically. Okay. I'm so new to this live goals thing, but I'm trying to figure this out. Let's see. Justin says it's going to largely affect private insurance as well, and they eliminate Medicaid. Yeah, yeah, because these insurance companies are a complete scam, in my opinion.
Yes,
I don't understand what they do except skim profit. I don't see any other thing that they actually contribute to
right.
what's going on. They
And the
just take profit and they don't add any value. They don't help
nope,
people. They deny
nope.
claims so that people stay sick or can't get life-saving operations. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Why do they
Well,
exist?
right. And Bassman, do you realize by cutting Medicaid, rural hospitals will close? Some nursing homes will close. That means unemployment will rise. When a rural hospital closes, people's going to have to travel further to get the medical care they need. And some of those people will not make it.
And yes, and some of the transportation has been taken away also,
Yes,
right? So now not only you eliminate hospitals, people have to travel farther to get to the hospitals, and you've eliminated the transportation that took them there. It's like it's
yes,
clear that the goal is to be cruel and to
right.
just hurt people, and I don't even think they care who they hurt. I think it's completely
No,
indiscriminate. I mean, yes,
yep,
it's clear that they have um, a bias and a prejudice, but they are acting indiscriminately.
yes,
This wide net that they're casting is not only hurting the people that they want to hurt, it's hurting everybody else too.
right. And Meals on Wheels is already gone.
Right. Vicky, thank you for the heart me. And again, there should be a heart up there somewhere or in the gift gallery. And that's like joining my fan club. And I'm going to start developing that fan club soon so that we can have a Discord because obviously there are topics that TikTok doesn't like, and that's fine because it's their ball, it's their game. They can play it any way they want. But over on Discord will be a little bit freer to have the kind of conversations that we'd like to have. So, Alpha Dude, so they are saying poor people should just unalive. Basically, they're not saying that literally, but their actions are creating that reality.
Yes,
The fact is that everything they're doing is at a level of cruelty that normally has been reserved for countries that America has conflicts with.
Like North Korea.
the countries that we criticize for how their government treats their people, right? There are people out here criticizing Iran and how they treat women. And I'm like, you just tried to grow a fetus in a corpse. So
Yes.
please, let's not talk about how other people
I,
treat women,
yeah. Well,
and, last year with what the Supreme Court did to women's rights, this is insanity.
yeah. Well, and that's just like I said. The United States used to stand up for human rights.
Some
Now we're
humans,
violating
sure.
human rights.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's such a bizarre thing to me. I was saying this on Jordan's live earlier. Um, I've been talking about this stuff since I was a teenager. By the
Hmm.
time I reached my senior year in high school, when I was 18 years old, all of the pieces uh, didn't make sense to me in terms of like the propaganda about America versus the reality of America, right?
Hmm.
And I was, I'm listening to history class and all these perfect sound bites, and I just thought, I don't know, it doesn't sound like people would really say stuff like that, and the thing that really put me over the top, the thing that really got my attention was Nathan Hale. He was about to be strung up, and he had the wherewithal to say, "My only regret is that I have but one life to give for my country." And I was like, I call bullshit on that. you know,
Yeah.
I was like, come on, man. Someone facing their demise is just going to trot out this perfect soundbite. Fuck that nonsense.
Right.
So, and then I started, like, after high school is when I started reading more. Oh, Ryan says, fresh shave looks good, brother. Thank you. I was looking rather like a homeless person earlier today, so I thought I should spruce up a little bit before I went live. So thank you for noticing. So um, the more I started reading, the more I went beyond what the school books have to teach, the more horrified I began to get. And the more I realized as the decades went by, I just couldn't shake the feeling that all of this propaganda doesn't actually exist in reality. And now, with this fascist regime in office that is quite literally following the playbook from Germany in the 30s. And
Yes.
please don't take my word for it. Don't just believe it because I'm saying it. And if you think I'm wrong, please go ahead and prove me wrong. Go ahead and look at the march. And it started in 1921 because that's when the mustachioed dude became head of that party that we can't say on TikTok. Okay? And from 1921 on, there was this progression, including Schmittler being thrown in jail for attempted insurrection, right? Which is why Donnie Dump got impeached the second time, right? So, and then we're seeing the erosion of rights, we're seeing the vilification of a race of people. This is just falling right in line with the same experiences, the same pathway to fascism that Germany undertook. And Germany took decades to recover. Steelman says no. Okay, Steelman, please. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, so I'm inviting you up. You can choose to keep making comments if you like, but it's harder
I think
to
I have the rights.
communicate.
Oh,
Say
I
again?
think rights have opened up. Okay, Donald Trump is trying to force journalists to give him information.
But that's all right. So, Steelman, instead of trying to communicate in the chat, which is very limited, please come up and share your ideas. Because again, I don't mind when people don't agree with me, I would just like to hear the facts. And chat is a
Donald
very
Trump.
difficult way to do that because there's always a lag, and we've said three things, and then they speak to one thing that I said, and so it's kind of difficult. So if
Right.
you
And
have the courage of your convictions, please come up and talk about it. What were you saying, Mike?
Donald Trump is actually talking about trying to take citizenship away from American citizens who he thinks are criminals.
Right. And once you get on the path that he's on, then basically it's exactly like what was going on in England in the 1700s, and what
Yes.
motivated this network of people to establish a new country in America. And what was going on is that you had a tyrant that could walk down the street and point to someone and say, "Off with his head,"
Yes.
right? So that's where due process came in. That's where sovereignty came in. Like, if you are in America, no matter how you got here, if you're on American soil, you enjoy the rights of Americans, right? You are protected under the law, and that means that you get to face your accusers, right? That means you have your day in court. You are allowed representation, whether you can afford it or not. Like, this is the cornerstone, the essence of American society, and it is in direct opposition to what kings do. So now, what Dump wants, and what the Supreme Court has helped him with a couple of times now, is turning this into a monarchy, turning this into the same situation where if Daddy Dump decides that you're a bad guy, he can just say, "Well, put him in jail, deport him, whatever," right?
Right.
Because that's what's it. Because to quote you, Mike, if one person loses due process, everybody loses due process.
Yes.
You have to be able to defend yourself, because guess what? The law gets it wrong sometimes. Okay, they're not. Uh, John Paulu has given us some wrong information. He said crossing the border illegally is a felony. It is not. It's a misdemeanor. So you are
Yes.
completely incorrect about that, John. You don't know the law. By saying
If,
TDS, what you're telling me is you're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, because all you can do is be a propaganda parrot and repeat what Daddy Dump has said. Okay, so
crossing the,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, crossing the border is like a jaywalking ticket.
Right. And again, no matter how you get to America, whether you parachute in, whether you catapult in, whether you tunnel in, whether you walk across a river or walk through a checkpoint, once you are here, you are entitled to all of the legal protections that are offered in America.
Under the
And
Constitution.
absolutely. And the Constitution is the bedrock of the legal system. That is the
Yeah.
foundation.
What
Like,
is?
that's why when a new law is introduced, they always have to check it against the Constitution to make sure that it is constitutional.
Right. There, and if you come into this country, you are afforded the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment, 15th Amendment, right? No,
It's
14th
actually
Amendment.
it's actually the Fifth Amendment,
Yeah.
and well, you're afforded all of it, but due
Yeah.
process is specifically spoken about. And by the way, due process is so important that I believe it's the only legal concept mentioned twice in the entire Constitution. And
Yes.
it is mentioned in the opening paragraph of the Fifth Amendment and in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. Justin, welcome. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
I am excellent. I'm alive another day, and I am grateful for that. So what's going on with
That's
you?
always a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, not too much. Yeah, sorry I couldn't come up a bit ago. I was on dumping.
Oh, no
I
worries.
was
No
unloading
worries.
a hopper trailer.
Okay, cool. So, what my topic today is a question, and the question is democracy over? How do you feel about
The
what's
way it
going
keeps
on?
going, yeah. The way things are going now, yeah, democracy is pretty much kapooey.
Yep.
So, what makes you say that? What are the things that you see that make that true for you?
Well, the Trump LaFuck, is a little dictator. He's all about trying to save our democracy, but he's doing the exact opposite of it, taking away our rights or our freedom and, all that good stuff. Come on, Mark, get out of my way. Um, he thinks that he's above the law. Um,
And unfortunately,
that's
the
about what I
Supreme
got right
Court
now.
sort of helped him think that, right? Like today is the
Yeah.
first
Yep.
anniversary of when the Supreme Court decided that presidents need to have the same power as kings.
Yep.
I'm surprised Donald Trump didn't have fireworks set off for that.
Yeah. So,
Nobody would.
you said
Nobody
something
was showing up for it.
interesting. You said something interesting, Justin, in that, when Dump declares these problems, a lot of them are just like stuff that he makes up, like what's going on in Iran now, which we'll get to in a moment. But I wrote this down the other day and I made a post about it. Dump's ideas are the opposite of solutions. Every time he sees something lacking in America, he seeks to take something away. When he saw that America didn't have enough manufacturing, his solution was less trade. When he saw America doesn't have enough housing, which of course is not true, there are more houses than houseless people, but his solution was to remove immigrants. When he saw that America has an issue with debt, rather than suggest growth, he started cutting vital programs for the vulnerable. So that's been his pattern.
Hmm?
He makes up a problem, and then his way to fix it is to take something away from us. Like,
Yep.
his problem, which wasn't a real problem, was that he needed to make his buddies more money, right? He wanted the billionaire class, the wealth class, to make more money. So instead of creating opportunities for them, which I don't know why they would need any, they were already millionaires and billionaires, but instead of looking to create growth opportunities, he said, well, let's give them tax cuts and let's take away from everybody else in order to have those. And that's what all this is. That's
Mm-hmm.
most of the bill is. But what's worse about this bill is that aside from the very ugly and sinister taking away of medical benefits and food and all these things, and like USAD, USAID. I don't know if people know this, but on average, USAD saved 4.5 million lives a
Yeah.
year. Okay, four and a half
Uh-huh.
million lives a year is what they are responsible for. When you look at the last 20 years and how many people they've saved from, by feeding them, by getting them medicine and that kind of thing, and when you look at Medicaid and Medicare and EBT and SNAP and Social Security and Section 8, when you look at these vital programs that, by the way, are mostly used in red states and overwhelmingly in red counties. If you count up the
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
counties that are blue and the counties that are red, it is a vast multiplier more of people in red states that take advantage of these programs, and now they want to take these things away just so wealthy people can have another yacht. Like I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean,
And I think Alabama. I can't remember the whole ranking system, but I think Alabama was number one for the states that's going to be hurt the most.
yeah, Alabama, Arkansas, and Mississippi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the red states that benefit from blue state money. And JS4087 has a very brilliant suggestion for me that sounds like, I assume, must be like a 7-year-old, because he said, okay, Mr. Professional, run for president. Does that sound like an adult talking to anybody?
No,
Mm,
sounds like a
sounds like a
child.
troll.
Okay, Mr.
Sounds like a troll or
Professional.
a bot.
This is like what you would get in like fourth grade. Someone saying something like that. Like
Oh,
that's
I like
such
I
that's
like what
such
Vicky. I
infantile
like what.
mentality. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, what were we
I
saying?
like what. I like what Vicky said. Arkansas is effed.
Right. Yeah. Hi, Vicky. Good to see you again. Um. So yeah, like, and this is what really gets me about some of the hatred from
Yeah,
red states. A,
Marty.
you are biting the hand that feeds you in a couple of ways. Because number one, it's blue states that are feeding you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Marty.
Marty,
If you
he's
think
here.
we're misinformed, why don't you come up and inform us with the right information?
Uh,
Wait, what did I miss on
misinformed.
the comments?
No, Marty
Marty
says
says, "Here we go
misinformed.
again. Here you go
Yeah,
again,
I'll
misinformed."
hold on, easy. I'll invite Marty up, and usually the MAGA hats don't come up, but I'm always happy when they do, because again, I since I'm in so many lives, it's so frustrating to try to communicate in the chat, and it's just easier if they come up and say their goofy things here. So, that way I can address them in real time and point out how absurd they are. Yeah, look at Marty chicken out. Waste of time. See, this is what they do. They talk a
Well, he
lot of
also
shit, and
said,
then when
"Yeah,
I
he
invite them
also,
up, they're like, oh, it's too much of a waste of my
yeah,
time. It wasn't a waste of your time to type away like a twit, but it's a waste of your time to have a conversation. I get it, Marty.
yeah,
Buck,
yeah."
buck,
He
buck,
says
buck, 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 buck.
he's reacting to the name Chocolate
Chicken
Yoda.
shit. Chicken shit.
Marty is just a keyboard warrior, and Marty
Yeah.
to cover on what was said on the blue states feeding the red states. We'll take California as an example. California sends in $89 billion per year on taxes to the federal government, and in return, they get back less than 60 cents on the dollar.
Yes.
Now you look at Alabama. I'm just going to throw a number out there because I don't remember the exact number, but it'll be a close enough equation. Okay, Alabama sends in $1 million, which wouldn't surprise me if it was that low of a number, and they get back like $1.50 on the dollar.
Yeah.
That is a very provable fact, and it's not that hard to use your little keyboard warrior hands and go look shit up instead of coming in here trying to be a keyboard warrior and thinking you know shit because you don't know shit. What I
First,
do know,
you got to put your little weenie down.
yeah, that too. And I do know, there, little Marty, I need to get a hold of your little daddy Trump and beg him not to get rid of the Department of Education because you obviously need it bad, son. Maybe you'll be able to get past the fourth grade.
Yeah, I put Marty on timeout for 5 minutes. He's probably got about 3 more minutes to chill, and then he can come
That's
up
all
and
right.
talk the dumb stuff.
As
I
long as
mean,
you heard me.
he can still hear us, but he just can't comment for a few minutes because when I invite people up and they chicken out, normally I kick them out of the live entirely. But I'm feeling generous tonight. And by the way, thank you for your generosity, everybody. You got me up to 6,900 in a half hour. That's excellent. I do have a new live goal of 20 something or other cakes or hearts. I forget what it is. But
Hey, those aren't available on my gifting.
oh really? Yeah,
No,
I don't know
nope.
how it
I checked
works.
them. I didn't
I
send
just
them to
know they
you.
say you should make live gift goals and stuff like that. I mean, at the end of a live, I'll be up here 2 hours. I come down and I've made, $1.75, and then I just recirculate that. I give that away to other
Yeah.
live creators, but it's just a good way to let TikTok know that people are interested. And so, keep tapping. And by the way, please share out the live, which you can do one of two ways. You can either hold your finger on the middle of the screen and have your friends list pop up. Beside all of their names, you're gonna see the word send, and you just click send. I think you're allowed. I think there's a limit of 15, and then you have to do it again. Or you can do a similar thing, hit the share icon, and go down your friends list. And again, I believe they allow you to send 15 shares at a time. And just the more the merrier, basically.
Yoddah,
Yes.
real quick, if they do it from the screen, if they hold down, basically in the middle of your face, to send it out. Here, I'll send out a few of them real quick. It'll take over. It'll take over the comment section like that.
Right.
That's the problem with doing that.
It doesn't. It's not a problem because the comments keep coming no matter what.
Yeah.
But thank you everybody for sharing. Thank you, Vicky. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Blessed, they should keep their
So
taxes
Yoddah,
for
I
their
wrote a
state.
song.
You wrote a song. Okay.
I wrote a song.
Normally I don't play songs on my live, but what is your song about?
No, no, it can't be played. It can't be played. I can't play it right now.
Okay.
I'll send you the Dropbox. Blah. I will send you the Dropbox link for it. It's
Oh,
three
excellent.
songs I wrote.
Oh,
One of them is called Red Disaster. The other one's called Big Beautiful Bullshit. I'm sure you know what that one's about.
sure.
And the other one I actually wrote for 5051 for the rallies and everything. And well, those in Illinois are actually wanting to use it for are actually wanting to use that song for their rallies, which is
Nice.
awesome.
Nice.
Now I will clarify on something real quick. I wrote the lyrics, but I am completely tone deaf. I cannot sing to save my life. If somebody said, "Hey, if you want to live, sing," I'll ask them where my coffin's at.
That's funny.
So the voice and the instrumentals is AI, but the lyrics are mine.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's excellent. Well, yeah, I look forward to checking that out. I actually put up a very badly recorded cover of Hallelujah yesterday. And I knew the recording was horrible, but I was like, yeah, let me just figure out how to make a cover video. So I put it up. It's hardly has any views, rightfully so, but I put up so much content it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But Vicky, you love that song. That's cool. It is a great song. And Vicky, have you ever seen JD Lang's live version of that song? If you haven't, please look it up on YouTube. I believe she's wearing black and she's barefoot on stage as she normally is. It is, for my money, it is the most beautiful rendition of that song that I've ever heard. She got a well-deserved, prolonged standing ovation when she was done. It was stirring, absolutely stirring. And what's interesting is that Leonard Cohen apparently performed the song a different way with different lyrics just about every time he performed it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of Leonard Cohen is definitely an interesting figure in music. I first became aware of him around the early 90s or so. There was a film that featured a bunch of his songs in the soundtrack. I think it was called Erotica or something like that. But it was really, really interesting. Like, because he wasn't a singer in the common way, in the traditional way. He would he would sing very low. It was almost like prolonged talking, but his voice was so deep and resonant, it was, especially in Hallelujah. And they recorded that beautifully. I did not. I fucked up the recording, but I'll try it again. Because I'm a junior audio engineer, and I tried an experiment with the microphone, and it got fucked up completely.
There's a group out there. I think it's called Pentatonic.
Oh yeah, they do.
Oh my God,
acapellas.
it is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I don't like about Pentatonic is that it is, to me, from my ears, a little too overly produced.
Yes.
They make it too slick. Like the beauty of the human voice, when especially when you have apparently the to the human ear, the most pleasing sound is a 5-part harmony. Like that's why
Yes.
when you see boy bands, there are always 5 of them, right? And so there's to me there's no need to heavily augment those performances. Like let the humanity come through. I don't like pitch correction, so know how to sing or don't sing, right? Um, and I understand things like putting in a little bit of echo or a little bit of compression to so that it sits well in the music. But I think like, and again, if you listen to Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, the official recorded version of it, you see that they didn't do that much to his voice. They just made sure it sat well in the music, but they didn't put a lot of effects on it. And the groups that I like the most are the same way. So now that we got music appreciation done with, I want to move on to Iran. Since I was a young man, because the first president that I remember is Nixon, and I was like 8 or 9 when Nixon retired, and or quit really. And I've heard about the Middle East my whole life. Rappers would sing about peace in the Middle East. It was something that was just talked about constantly. Jimmy Carter has that famous photo, I think from like the late 70s, where he had the two conflicting party leaders shake hands, and and actually that peace accord lasted up until recently,
Yeah.
right? And I didn't know this because again, I am not that familiar with all the different countries in the Middle East, and I heard about Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, but I don't really know that much about them. And so one thing that I didn't know literally until today is that what happened in June of this year, with armaments being dropped on Iran, it is the first time ever that America has dropped armaments on Iran. And that is a shame.
Now, do you want to know what I find very
Yeah, I was like,
comical about that whole thing with Iran? Is back in November 29th of 2011, Donald Trump said on his little Twitter, in order to get elected, Barack Obama will start a war with Iran.
Yeah, be careful of the W
J-
word. They don't like that on TikTok. He will start a conflict with Iran.
okay. He said the same thing again on January 17th. He's of 2012. He said again on September 16th of 2013. Said again in November of 2013, and yet all saying that Barack Obama was going to do this, and yet he's the one that did it.
But he also
Make
said
that
that
make sense.
Harris was going to do it. He said that Biden was going to do it. This is just his bullshit talking point. And Vicky, I see you said I check out the Hoover Dam at your recommendation too. That's very kind of you, Vicky. Thank you. So what really frustrates me about all of this Middle East madness is that it is almost exactly a chapter out of the book 1984. And I've talked
yes.
about this before, but it's just so surreal to me because on March 26th, I believe, March 25th or 26th of this year, there was Tulsi Gabbard testifying about Iran in great detail, talking about how all of the intelligence agencies and all the watchdogs have reached the same conclusion about Iran, and that is they are not enriching their program. She specifically said that nothing has changed since 2003. Those were her words.
Mm-hmm.
And then in June, suddenly it turned into, I was taken out of context.
Yeah.
That's fucking
Yep.
wild. That is literally
Hmm.
out of 1984.
Right. Because
Okay.
Donald Trump threw her ass out.
And this is a manufactured conflict. And at this point, and I want to just preface what I'm about to say. A third of my family is Jewish because my mother, when she got remarried, married a Jewish man, and so I got a lot of Jewish relatives. Okay, and I had a stepbrother and two stepsisters from him, and they had children, and I have nothing against Jewish people, but what Israel is doing is absolutely insane.
Yes.
And the fact
Yes.
that Biden helped them do it, I thought was a problem. The fact that now Dump is helping them do it, I think is a problem. Because let's also remember, speaking of all the warnings that Dump gave about Iran, well, Netanyahu has been saying that they're 2 weeks away since 1996. So this is just the playbook, and the result is going to be two things. The wealth class is going to get wealthier because they're going to sell a lot of weapons and they're going to sell a lot of coffins, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the innocent bystanders are the one that are going to be hurt, because here's what we know happened every time we've gone into the Middle East and started dropping armaments. We know that some guy gets home after a day of work and his 8-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter greets him at the door. His wife says dinner's ready. They sit down and suddenly their roof caves in from an armament that was dropped on them, and they're all gone. And they had
Yes.
nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with the conflict. This happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, where the toll of innocent bystanders was over 1 million at the very least. And, it's something that Americans don't want to talk about, and the MAGA hats don't care, but these are human beings. And guess what? American soldiers are going to get hurt too. So
Yep.
all this bullshit where Dump was pounding his chest and claiming that he would keep America out of conflict, he literally, like every other fucking promise he made, he lied. Gentlemen, your thoughts on that?
Huh, I agree. Well, I mean, it's like if you look back at Iraq, they were hiding some no stuff that never existed to begin with.
The one thing I remember about that was G.W. Bush gave them 6 weeks notice that we were coming, and innocent women and children and even innocent fathers lost their lives for nothing. And that's the one thing horrible about WAR. And it just blows my mind because on the campaign trail, Donald Trump kept saying, "I am the president of peace."
And of course, we all knew he was lying, because if you look at his first administration, he increased drone strikes by 400%.
Yes, but he said Barack Obama did more.
And I was against Obama's drone program.
So was I.
Yeah, Vicky has pointed out that he breathes, he lies. Yeah. And Progressive
Yes.
Dawn says BS. I'm not sure what you're addressing, Progressive Dawn, but, you know, either be more descriptive or come up here and talk about it. Disagree with anything that we're talking about, that is okay. Happy to hear all voices. Folks, we are at 10K likes, just under an hour. That's spectacular. Please keep it going. If anybody can knock out that live goal, or maybe, you know what, since nobody did that live goal, let me do another one. Make an easy one.
Well, I know what I laugh about. I can't say I laugh about it, but one minute Donald Trump is saying that we destroyed their nuclear capability, but then again you hear that it was only damaged. Then Donald Trump says it was annihilated. Then you hear again it was damaged severely. So which one is it?
Oh, you forgot obliterated.
Oh yeah, I did forget that one. Thank you.
Traffic Man, yeah, I changed the live goal to roses, and it looks like people are having at it. That's a beautiful thing. Oh, Vicky is tapping away. Traffic Man's tapping away. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And Traffic Man, I'll invite you up because you know you're always welcome on my lives. Yeah, I mean the guy just seems fundamentally incapable as a human being to tell the truth about anything. What's going on,
Yes.
Traffic Man?
Good evening. How is everybody this evening?
I myself am frustrated, and my frustration comes from the understanding that I can't do anything about this. Oh, the live goal was achieved. You people are brilliant. Thank you so much. You know, I don't want to discourage anybody from making any efforts that they feel they must, because the reason that I vote is not because I believe in the American voting system. I don't. I think that the Electoral College is an absolute travesty and completely antithetical
Outdated.
to democracy. But
That-
I vote because I don't want to feel useless and I don't want to feel helpless. So I don't want to discourage anybody who wants to do things to do them, right? But I just feel in my heart that aside from something cataclysmic that the people would do to the government, and that still wouldn't get anything done, frankly, but aside from that, there's just literally nothing that we can do. They've tried to convince us that the government is of, by, and for the people, and it just clearly isn't.
I can agree with that.
Every time I hear somebody in Congress say, the American people want, I'm like, when did you ask me what I wanted?
Yeah, where was the poll? I think I missed the poll.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of
Like
polls,
Martin,
I'm
Martin
glad
Short.
you brought up polls because I find this very interesting. You know, there's not all polls are created equal, obviously, but there are companies that are renowned for doing polls well. And there's only a handful of them, but they do all these cross-sectional polls. They ask people on both sides of the aisle and all sorts of different demographics, a bunch of questions about life in America, the hot button issues like, you know, whether two boys should be able to get married, or whether street candy should be legal, or whether certain weapons of violence should be regulated. And what's very interesting is that on all the major hot button issues, there's an overwhelming amount of agreement on across the spectrum, right? And isn't it ironic that America is referred to as a representative democracy, and yet they're not doing what people want them to do? They're not making it easier for us to live. They haven't raised the minimum wage in 16 years. They're
Yep.
not making it easier for us to maintain our lives, because if anything goes wrong, if you get too sick, if you get too hurt, if you have a heart attack or anything like that, you could easily lose everything. And living
Yes.
on the
Yep.
razor's edge like that is not normal. That's why there's so much sickness in a country that has so much fucking money and so much technology. How is it that we are so sick? We are so depressed. We are so stressed out. Why is that?
Legislation without representation. I mean, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, that's just like what's his name, Jim Jordan of Ohio.
Oh,
He's been in
Oh
Congress
God.
now like 14 years. He has done nothing.
Listen,
Jim
our army.
Jordan is pure garbage. Just
I'm
What's
from
that?
garbage.
Ohio. I'm from Ohio.
So am
So
I.
that are you? Okay. I'm from
I,
Stark County.
So am I. Where are you in Stark County?
I'm in Canton.
So am I.
Do you live down the street from me?
I might be. I mean, I'm near the Walmart on Tusk.
all right. Well, let's not
Sorry, let's
dox
not get into that.
ourselves.
Yeah. No, sir, I will
Yeah.
message you. I will message you further. But go
All
anyways, go
right.
ahead.
So you know about Jim Jordan?
I'm very well versed in that, man. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
He used
so
to
I'm
waste into
I'm not
condoms.
from Ohio, but I am aware of Jordan. And I mean, this is a guy who turned a blind eye to teenagers getting hurt and abused in the worst way.
Yes.
And I'm sorry,
Hmm.
I have a simple rule that I live by, and that is if enough people call you a horse, it's time to buy a saddle. And the
That's
Yes, sir.
right.
litany of people saying what they're saying about Jim Jordan makes it very clear that he has to buy a saddle.
Yes.
Tucker Maker said, "We eat garbage and take pills." Yep. While you grow your own food. Yeah. I do my best to. I've been a vegetarian since 1987. And I know you must all be wondering, how do you become a fat vegetarian? Well, I'm going to tell you, kids, it takes dedication. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of effort, sustained over decades.
Speaking of,
But that's how you become a fat vegetarian. But anyway, and you also get on medication, but that's a long story. But
It's a
I
skill.
do my best to buy high quality food. I can't afford the best food in the world, but I can afford decent quality food. But it's harder and harder to find that because
Yes.
factory farming is and again, I want to make a disclaimer in all humility. I haven't a clue how you feed 350 million people every day. Okay. That is a massive undertaking. That's the job of the government, right? To make that possible. I don't know how you do it, but I do suspect, I'm not going to say I know, I suspect that factory farming is not the answer.
No.
Because factory
yeah.
farming is what creates lakes of fecal matter that gets into the groundwater. It creates chemical spillage into the food that we eat. And it creates all sorts of, like E. coli is a result of feeding cows corn instead of feeding them grass, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
Because cows are bred by nature, by evolution. I know some MAGA hats are afraid of that word, but if they are designed to eat grass. So when you feed them corn, they can't digest it, and the undigested stuff starts to fester and grow bacteria in their guts, and that's what E. coli is. And
Yes.
eventually that E. coli passes through their system and then lands on earth or water and gets into the food that humans eat. And so to me, factory farming is a problem. And I think it would be much better because, when you go back way back to the 1700s, almost everybody was a farmer. That was the
Yes.
number one profession in America. And it made sense. That meant your food was always local, nothing was refrigerated, everything was fresh. There wasn't this bouillabaisse of chemicals in your food, so there's got to be a better way because the results speak for themselves. This is one of the sickest societies on earth. There are third world countries that have healthier people than America does.
Hmm.
If I may give you an anecdote on this topic,
Hmm.
so I am not a small human. I am 40 years old, 6'7", and I'm like 265. Nobody else in my family is this tall,
Wow.
and I kind of attribute in the early 80s when I was born, my parents, they were very frugal, and so whatever they were eating for dinner, whatever it was, my mother would put into a blender and then feed me like baby food, you know.
Mm,
And I really feel that at that time, food was packed full of the hormones and GMOs and all these things, and I really feel that had an effect on my final size outcome. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
my brother was not fed that same diet, and he's only like 5'7".
Wow. That's a huge difference.
So, you know, and I know there genetics and all that stuff. There's many different variables into this, but I do have to say that I really do attribute a lot of that to how I ended up being as big as I am.
Well,
I, I,
nutrition
I,
is a part of the human story. That human evolution is largely due to the nutrients that we took in. That's why our brains are so big and all that other stuff. But I'm sorry, someone was about to say something.
no, I was going to say something, but I decided to stop.
Oh, okay.
I was going
So
to make a crude joke, but I said, "Nah, I don't know this dude, so I'm going to shut up."
there you go. Well, when I always respect when people edit themselves, I assume they know best.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Tucker Maker, I rarely get sick. But the men in my family are not built for longevity. My father left us at 55, and now I'm 61, and so I'm a better man than he was on a lot of levels. But I do have health issues. Thankfully, not too severe, but I had a brain tumor in 2012, and I had a heart stent put in. I think it was the end of 2016 or the end of 2017. And so, and I was born with a heart murmur. So I'm, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm living on house money right now because this is all borrowed time based on technology and the medical profession. But I generally am pretty healthy most of the time. I'm stronger than I look. Like I celebrated my 50th birthday by squatting 500 pounds, and that was a blast. I haven't been to
There
the
you
gym in a
go.
long time though, so I know if I got under those weights, it would be a problem. But like I have 100-pound kettlebell here that I can lift up with one arm. I can bend over on one leg and grab it, and with a straight back and a straight leg, stand back up. So,
I remember when I could do that.
yeah,
That's still
yeah,
something
no, yeah,
positive. I mean,
yeah, and so that's I don't exercise regularly, which is just because of my sloth-like DNA. Like I think in a past life I was a sloth because I act like a human sloth right now.
I can see what I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think I saw you on the last the last release of Ice Age.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Jeez.
Yeah. That perfectly encapsulates me. Like I just, and I've been like this my whole life. Like I've had a great life. I really have. I've had adventures that a lot of people don't get to have, and I've had more conjugal joy than a lot of people get to have. But I have virtually no ambition. And so, like, I have to put in so much effort just to convince myself to do anything. you know, that's actually
Hmm.
why I'm going 6 days a week right now on TikTok Live, and because I want to I want to motivate myself to do something. And even though it's only 2 hours, I have to make sure that I'm rested and my throat is in good shape, and I'm hydrated and all that good stuff. So it becomes a whole day affair of making sure I'm ready for these 2 hours. So that I actually feel better that I'm doing that. I need to do more, but this is a good start.
Yeah, I've definitely, at 40, I've definitely been trying to convince myself to allocate the time, at least 1 hour a day to try to go back to the gym. I have not been successful in that yet, but
Yeah.
the thought is there. So, we're getting there.
Yeah, I've been paying my gym $22 for 10 years, $22 a month for 10 years. And I think when I first got here, I was still working out regularly. But I don't even think that I think maybe a year and a half later is when I really stopped going regularly. And I've been paying them this whole time. And,
Yep.
I know it would probably be smarter to quit, but I don't know. There's something psychological about ending my gym membership. It feels like it would be devastating. It would, it
Yes.
would just make me
You and
depressed.
I, are the perfect customer. We are the perfect demographic of customer for them.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you,
Yeah.
I signed up. I signed up with Medicare. I signed up for Silver Sneaker. I haven't used it yet.
Mm, yeah. Tucker
And I
Maker
keep
says,
telling
"Come
myself,
to the
dude.
farm. I got rocks to move." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I that sounds so completely unappealing that I doubt that I'm going to take you up on that. But I will say
See,
this:
I kind of got.
one hack that I did do. There's really two. Number one, I bought kettlebells so that when I'm in the mood to work out, I don't have to go anywhere. For anybody that's never worked out on a kettlebell, they are crazy effective. And this is my opinion. I've worked out on so many different pieces of equipment in my lifetime. I have never found anything as effective as kettlebells. They are the best piece of equipment, and you only have to pay for them once, and they last. Like I have my kettlebells. I think my first kettlebells from 2009, and I think the last one I bought around 2013 or so. Yeah, 2013. So they last, and I don't do anything to them. I don't wipe them down. I don't clean them. I don't oil them. They just last because they're cast iron
Hmm.
and
what
they're
what
excellent
exactly
equipment.
are they?
If you think about a bowling ball with a curved handle
Yeah.
on top of it, that's what a
Oh, okay. I know
kettlebell
what you're
looks
talking.
like. Everyone's seen them, but
Okay.
nobody knows what they are.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen them.
as a matter of fact, when they kind of reached their fad stage in America, which was probably around 2009, 2010, Sylvester Stallone put a kettlebell segment into the training montage for one of the Rocky films.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that thing he was swinging, that big thing,
Yeah.
swing, swing. Yeah, that's a kettlebell. It's a Russian invention, I believe, and it goes back something like 300 years. And it is really, it doesn't make sense when you use it because it's like, how is this little thing going to help me get strong? But when you think about how people mostly exercise, and Mike, I know you're well versed in this, almost
Mm,
everything in the gym is a linear movement and essentially a
yes.
static movement, right? It's
Hmm.
it's either a push or a pull, but it's linear, right? And the
Yes.
kettlebell is not only not linear, it's an arch. The movement is all
Ah.
arches and it's ballistic. So what happens is when you're swinging a kettlebell, every muscle in your body has to activate so that you keep your balance.
Hmm.
So even though you'll stand there in one spot, like I still remember vividly in 2009 the first time I swung a kettlebell, and I think it was like an 8 pounder, something like that, which is
Hmm.
4 kilograms. I was After 30 seconds, sweat was pouring off me, and I turned to my wife and I was like, "How am I standing still and sweating so much? This doesn't even make sense." But I had a real bad problem in my lower back that went away. There was a time where if I did this with my right arm, I would
Mm.
be in searing pain. right? It
I'm like
just
that with my left arm now.
yeah, my rotator cuff. Eventually, my left rotator cuff went, and I stopped working out, and I had to get surgery on that. But on the right one, I never needed surgery because the kettlebell helped heal it. So
Ah,
yeah, so obviously, I
yeah.
highly recommend it. I actually just
I'm
sent
gonna,
someone a kettlebell because they were complaining about back pain and talking about surgery, and I was like, before you go get that surgery, try kettlebell, and they swear by it now.
I'm gonna look
Uh,
into one.
Yeah, they're not that expensive. I mean, and you don't need a heavy one. I would start off with either 4 or 8 kilograms because
Well,
I have 8, 12, and 24. Is that what I have? Yeah. So it's like
well,
16 pounds, 50 pounds, and 100 pounds.
well. See, I don't want to get where I used to be because, like, I have no reason to lay around and bench press 400 pounds.
Right. Right.
There's no purpose in it. I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to take my refrigerator and knock it over and pick it up. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't need heavy weights.
well, and I will tell you, because of the weight restrictions on the bucket trucks that I use every day. So we have a 300-pound maximum weight limit in our department.
Yeah.
And because of my size, when I was super active in the gym, one day I finally got on the scale because my whole thing is like I'm not trying to like find a target weight. I'm just trying to be healthier. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just
Right.
trying to be more active and stuff. And so finally, somebody at work had said to me, they were like, "Man, you're getting pretty big," and I was like, "Maybe I should step on a scale." And I was 312 pounds.
Whoa.
I
Mhm.
could have absolutely gone up to Berea and been like, "Hey, I'm ready to be a linebacker. Let's do this."
Mhm.
But yeah, my problem is anytime I go back to the gym, I get back into that high school football mentality of the weight program. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's no let's light weights. It's always just like, oh, how much can I bench and all this stuff. But I will tell you, the bane of my existence is lateral raises.
Mm.
Whether it's with a dumbbell, whether it's with a kettlebell, anything. I disdain I can't tell you how much I absolutely hate lateral raises.
Right.
Well, me, I'm trying to stay above 150, well, yeah, 150, 158. Because before cancer, I was 230 pounds. And like I said, I was bench pressing 400 pounds. And I got on my scales this morning, I was 161. Because,
There
like,
you go.
I have no appetite and I don't eat much because I can't taste the food anymore.
Right.
Mm.
So when I
Yeah. No,
work
it
out a little
sucks.
bit,
When your health
yeah,
is affected, of course, everything
yeah,
changes. Tucker Maker says that he moves 135-pound bale of hay, throw into the barn. Definitely that helps. I used to
yep,
volunteer to help people move. That's a great exercise. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look,
yep.
I have all the resources. What I don't have is the will.
The
Yeah.
willpower. Yes, sir.
You know, because
You don't
honestly,
have the
look, like
energetic bunny.
I studied exercise physiology. I know all sorts of body weight exercises. I have enough knowledge to be a trainer, but I just don't have the motivation to do
Oh my God,
anything.
I'm glad you
And it
brought that
sucks because
one
I
up,
love
Yoda.
feeling strong. When I was in the gym 3 days a week, because after my brain surgery, I really was committed to being strong. And so I became a power lifter when I was never really big at the gym at all. I did it mostly for sports. I almost never worked out after high school, just once in a blue moon. But after my brain surgery, I was finally cleared to work out again. And after my research, I decided on being a power lifter. And I loved it. I love that. I love how strong I felt. I love how my everyday
Hmm.
life, nothing felt heavy, whether I was carrying
Mm.
groceries or like I remember one time I was at a CVS and I put three three things of bottles on the counter. You
Mm.
know, I guess three grosses of them. And, someone asked me if I needed help, and I was like, no, I'm good. And then as I was walking out, some random dude just said, "Oh, were you ever in the military?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm just strong, And I love that. I love feeling that strength.
Yeah.
When I went and did laundry, the laundry bag felt like nothing, like
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
I like that and I miss that.
Yep.
And I'm still very really flexible because of my martial arts training, and I still, have a lot more strength than the average 61-year-old man, but I know
Mm.
that I feel a lot weaker than I used to feel.
Yeah.
Sure.
But when you brought up the trainer, not to change the subject, but you just made me remind me of this guy. He said he was a what was it? A public servant. And somebody says, "Okay, what type of public servant are you?" I am a surfer instructor. He teaches people how to surf,
Okay.
and he calls that a public servant.
I mean, okay, from one perspective, I suppose that might be
Yeah,
true.
Sure.
yeah. But it was just hilarious. And he came up to teach us about what's going on with the government. And he was a Trump supporter.
Well, the only problem
And
I have with surfing is that it takes place in the ocean.
yes.
And I don't want to alarm anybody, but that's where monsters live.
Yes.
And
They
Yes.
got fish who want to eat you.
like not
Yeah.
only do they want to, but they can very easily.
Yes. Yes.
So my whole attitude on the ocean is fuck the ocean. I
Well,
love being near it. I love I'll
Yes.
go but literally, and I'm not saying this to be funny. I literally mean this. I have water shoes, and I am only willing to go in as deep as what covers my water shoes. So what are we talking about? 2 or 3 inches of water?
Sure.
That's it.
yes.
Sure.
That's as far into the ocean as I will venture. And I have felt this way since the film Jaws.
I
Okay.
can
I was just
understand
gonna
that.
say.
And
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
but
Well,
just
like
gonna.
even like when I was like 13 or something when Jaws came out, when I saw it. But the older you get and you watch nature shows, like when I was raising my son, I wanted to keep him away from regular television as much as possible. So we watched tons of nature shows. We still talk about them today, and we still send each other nature shit online all the
mhm.
time. And he's 40 now, and we still do it, which I love. But the more I learned about the ocean, the more my attitude was fuck the ocean. Because,
Yes.
there's a jellyfish in the ocean that might be immortal.
Hmm.
Okay. It's
Yep.
born, it grows old, then it Benjamin Buttons and grows young again, then it grows old again. It might not die. It might not unalive. We don't know if great white sharks end from natural causes. They might be immortal.
I, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there was a great white shark that was recently discovered. That was what, 400 years old?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to say there was something, and then the scientists that were observing it, because I can't use the other word. Then that's when they realized, like, holy crap, we just unalived this creature that was here before the United States of America.
Yeah.
Like the
Wow.
and yeah, the ocean is amazing, but also the ocean can keep itself where it's at.
Well, it's just like that's the way I feel about Florida. I've got a friend down there who's been trying to get me to move to Florida for 30 years. And I said,
Nah,
look, dude, I can't, I don't like humidity. We have it here in Ohio.
yes.
But if I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and it's 98 degrees in the shade, Screw that.
Yeah.
Well, and I will also tell you the nice thing about Florida is we don't have spiders that are the size of my palm.
Well, another thing, Florida,
I'm cool with the taiga of
yeah,
Northern
right.
America.
Well, also, Florida has snakes that fly. I have a problem with that.
Yeah,
And
but
what I mean is,
you know what they really have? They have Ron DeCrampus, and he's the worst species
Yes.
around.
well, that's the snake I
Yes.
was talking about.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
So check this out. Um, thankfully, because I don't want to underemphasize how terrified Jaws made me. But thankfully, it would be about another 20 or 30 years before I found out that Jaws was based on a true story.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
In I want to say 1916, I believe, around there, 1915,
Yep.
1916, in New
Hmm.
Jersey, a shark ran through the town and tore people up for a week.
Yeah.
They actually in that movie, if you go back and watch it, there is dialogue in that movie where they actually reference that whole situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I sat here one day and watched them all.
Oh, Lord. That must have been,
Ugh.
especially Jaws 3D, must have been awful.
But that's the one with Michael Caine, wasn't it?
I think, or was that Jaws 4? Which one had Michael
Maybe
Caine
that
in it?
was I
Uh,
forget.
oh, I know. Oh my God, what's his name? Richard Dreyfuss was in the first one.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I will tell you, my father-in-law, God bless him, he's no longer with us, but I remember him telling the story that the only movie that he had ever walked out of, like he watched Aliens, all the 1980s were very ripe with gory movies and
Yes.
stuff. And he said the only movie that he ever walked out of was Jaws. It
Wow.
disturbed him so much he made it for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes to the movie, and he was like, I can't do this, I gotta go. Well,
By
I,
the
listen, real
way,
well,
quick.
the first Alien was 1979, not the 80s.
yes.
Correct, correct.
Yeah. In 1981, they came out with a Tarzan movie, and I went to see it at a drive-in. And about 30 minutes into it, I drove away.
I've only walked out of two films. One was 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton, and the other was Wise Guys with Joe Pesci.
Okay.
I love
Well, mine.
films. I watch a film, at least one film, almost every day of my life.
Yeah,
I
I,
just
I
ever
love
since I
them.
was a child, I was just completely in love with films, and so it takes a lot for me to abandon one. I mean, it's
Well,
I'll rewatch films that I know are bad just
yes,
because they have
Yes.
something interesting about them. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this film Prometheus.
I have
This
not.
was one of
yeah,
the Alien films, but they
yes.
didn't.
Yes.
I watched it.
But the alien aspect of the film was only introduced like fully at the end. But about a half hour into the film, you realize it's an alien film. So here's the
Yeah,
interesting thing about Prometheus, and this will give you a little bit of insight into my weird psychology. So Prometheus is an absolutely wonderful film for 30 minutes, right? And
I
then
know.
completely jumps the shark in a way that you're just like, "Oh, I can't move beyond this point. You fucked up the whole film." Right?
Yep.
And still every year I watch the fucking thing again.
Yep. Now listen,
Because
I
I
will tell
love the
you,
first half hour of it.
there is one movie that I will never watch again. Oh my God, what's the name of it? It had Sam Neill. It was the space movie where they went to Neptune and they ended up opening the portal. Oh my God, I can't believe the movie's escaping my mind.
Yeah. I know which one. Was it
Uh,
something Horizon? Event
yeah, Event
Horizon?
Horizon. Thank you, Event
God
Horizon.
damn.
Yes.
Oh, my memory is spectacular sometimes.
There you go.
Holy
Yes.
shit.
So, so, so when I was a kid, so the movie didn't do very well at the box office, but when I was a kid, our local cable company screwed up and accidentally allowed us access to HBO. And
Oh, right.
this was before digital cable and all that stuff. So this
Right.
was anyways. And my parents didn't say anything. And I remember one night I was probably 14 or so, and I was like, oh, because I watched I saw what the premise of the movie was, and I was like, oh, it's a space adventure kind of a thing. That sounds like I love space. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love anything that does with outer space, except for a couple of the aliens movies, but that's whatever.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I want to watch this. I'm a 40-year-old man. I will not put that movie back on again. And my wife laughs because she's like, but you're an adult now. It's not as scary. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I will have nightmares for a month watching that movie again because I mean, like, I remember watching the commentary for the movie, and they had cut, I forget, it was like 45 minutes off of the movie. That's why it has only, I think, a 87-minute runtime.
Hmm.
Because
Oh,
in
interesting.
1996 or 97, the censors in the United States were like, you can't show that. You have to cut that from
Oh,
the film.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
Interesting.
that's how bad it was. And even after that, even after these heavy edits, it was still
Well,
absolutely awful.
what was the space movie where they was fighting giant bugs?
Oh, Starship Troopers.
Starship
Yes.
Troopers. Yeah,
Yes, I'm doing my
Um,
part.
that's right.
that movie.
That was a very
That
subversive film because that's all about fascism.
yes.
100%, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And
Tucker Maker
I
says
remember one
Hannibal
night. I
Lecter,
remember.
and May says The Thing. Danny, what's going on, brother?
Ooh.
I'm sorry I'm late there,
Oh
Professor.
man, no worries. You
I
never
had
have to
a
apologize to me, my friend.
I had a previous
Oop, did my
engagement with
internet die?
AC. AC was the first time he'd been on in a while, and
Yeah,
as you know, I'm a moderator over there too, so I
yeah.
went over there and
I
helped
had
him
to
out tonight.
apologize to Cherry because I couldn't. I was going on at the same time. But yeah, no. Well, thank you so much for coming here. We started off with a lot of gloom and doom, and now we're on films, and I am happy to stay on this topic.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, films is
Uh,
absolutely.
good,
So yeah, we were
and
talking about
Tropicana and hey,
films
Army
that scared
Sergeant.
the bejesus out of us. For me, it was George. And by the way, I've never seen the Exorcist. I've never seen
oh
any
my
of the
God.
Halloween films. I've never seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I don't like disgusting films like that. I like thrillers. Like I'll take Alfred Hitchcock all day long
Oh yes.
because he was like you. There are people that spend a good part of their time in college just studying uh, the film Psycho
Yes.
Hmm.
because what he did in that film was as significant as what Orson Welles did in Citizen Kane. And
Yes.
Hmm.
Citizen Kane is just it's an example of a guy who moved mountains to create this perfect gem of a film. And I haven't watched it in a long time. I'm due to see it again. But Orson Welles was only 26 years old when he made that fucking film.
Wow.
And
That
he had
makes me
to
feel
age through the
inadequate.
film just the same way you know, I know it's sort of a film that is just a staple of our lives and people don't think about it too much, but Jimmy
You know
Stewart
what?
in It's a Wonderful Life
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
is like if you look at his role, his performance in that film, it was like just give him the Oscar every year for the rest of his life. Because
Exactly.
Right.
what he did in that film, it wasn't just makeup to age him. If you look at every phase of his aging in that film, he changed himself physically.
Yeah.
He moved his body differently. The expression on his face was different. His eye movement was everything. Every fiber of his body was acting in that film, but
Yes.
you never saw him acting.
Nope.
Right.
My favorite scene in
Um,
that film was when the floor opened up and they fell in the pool. That
Yeah,
was my favorite part.
yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you the film I can't watch again. Hills Have Eyes.
Never seen it. I saw the poster
I
for it,
get
and
it.
it scared the shit out of me.
I get it.
Yeah. And I told my
um,
brother-in-law when I watched it, I said, you know, I have been to the desert many times. I will never ever go again. I didn't leave nothing there. I
Eric
will
says
never.
that Nicole Kidman and the Others was the scariest film I've ever watched. I have not seen that film, and I'm not gonna.
I've never seen it. May I introduce a hot take? And I apologize. Please
Go for
do
it,
not
man.
unfollow me.
Oh, come on. Never. Entertainment is
So
subjective, man. So whatever you got, go for it.
so there's a moment in Family Guy history. I believe it was like season 3, um, where they were all in the elevator, and Peter Griffin says, "Since we're all going to unalive, I have to get this off my chest. I never liked The Godfather." And I laughed hysterically because I can't watch those movies.
Hey,
I
listen.
don't like
There's
them.
there's no there's no piece of of entertainment that's for everybody. It's just there's no
Well,
No.
way. There's like
and
think
and,
about it.
and
Let's put this in perspective. Michael Jackson is still the most successful entertainer in human history, and he
yes,
sold 400 million albums at a time where there were 6 billion people here.
Yes.
So
when his
so it's
music comes on the
nobody's for
radio,
everybody.
when his music comes on the radio, I still turn it up. Like that's the effect of his
Right.
his
But there's
career.
some people that
Correct.
hear his music and turn it down.
Correct. But
I'd like I'd
I
like to
can't.
mention a movie
Say
since
again,
You
we're
like
talking
what?
about. I'd like to mention a movie since we're talking about horror
please.
movies.
Yeah.
The very first movie I ever saw as a kid, it was a horror movie. My brother actually took me to a horror movie, and I was probably 8, maybe it was 1958, and it was The Horror of Dracula
Oh wow.
Ah.
with
Okay.
Lon Chaney in
Yes.
Yes.
1958. And let me tell you something, that was one scary ass movie. I had nightmares for months afterwards over watching that movie as a kid.
Hey Dennis, do you remember House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price?
Oh, yeah.
The first
Um.
Yep.
time I saw that movie, it scared the hell out of me.
I listen. I will recommend that you not watch the remake of House on Haunted Hill
That was so
because
disappointing.
see here's from my perspective. I love the Vincent Price House on Haunted Hill.
Yes, so did I.
The modern one, it kind of falls under that whole Event Horizon
Yes.
thing for me, where I don't want to watch it again. Like,
But
okay,
what I
cool.
was going to say was, like I said, when I watched the original House on Haunted Hill, I was like 8 years old, and it scared the crap out of me. I watched it again at 16, and I was high as a kite, and I laughed my ass off.
So
There
we
you go.
have a film mentioned by user 2940. Most creative, powerful movie ever made. Crash. I love that film, and I happen
Yes.
to agree that
I've
it was
never seen that
powerful.
movie.
Oh my God! Let me tell you something. There is a
Let me look
part
that up.
in Crash that makes me cry every single time. So I definitely recommend that film. There's a few films like The Color Purple. There are
Mm-hmm.
three
Yes,
parts of The
yes,
Color
yes.
Purple where no matter how old I get, these three fucking parts of the film make me cry every time, and it's wild. But I just love films. Films are my escape. But what I find interesting is that human beings seem to be by nature voyeuristic. Like we are so interested in stories of other people's lives. Because when you think about
Right.
entertainment, what are books? It's a life
Yep.
that's different than your life. What are films? Same thing. TV shows. Everything is about and social media. That's all it's about. Which gives credence to what Rush said in 1981. All the world's indeed a stage. We are merely players, performers, and portrayers, each another's audience outside the gilded cage.
Yep.
Yes.
You know what the first movie I ever cried in?
Which
Patch
one?
Adams.
Patch Adams, yeah,
Okay.
sad,
Yeah,
very
Patch
sad.
absolutely.
Adams. And it was so funny because I worked in healthcare, and I was the dietary manager, and we have these things every month, every week called care plan meetings. Okay, you go in, you talk about to the resident. You talk about the resident, and you try to put them on plans to help their care and to help their health. Okay, and I'm the only guy in there, and all these girls, these nurses are saying we're going to go see this movie, Patch Adams, blah 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 blah, and they looked at me and they said, "Do you want to go too?" And I said, what is it? And they said, it's a Robin Williams movie. And I said, I love Robin Williams. But that's all they told me.
You got pulled in. Yep.
Yes, that's all they told me. I cracked up when they had the OBGI guys come in, when he made the legs. I thought that was hilarious. But when his girlfriend died and he's standing on the edge of the mountain, they all were looking at me. They wanted to see what would happen. And they all went, aw, because I was sitting there crying. And I said, you bitches, you set me
Well,
up. And they
Yeah,
laughed at me.
and
Jesus.
listen, I will tell you that there was a movie. It was my senior year of high school. We were in finals, so we were kind of like in and out of school and stuff like that. And we had a we had an amount of time that we could go catch a movie real quick. And the movie was Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Okay, and it was sold like it was going to be this World War II epic, right? The
Hmm.
trailers really didn't like get into the whole premise of the story. And suddenly here we were, a bunch of us guys from high school, 16 to 18 years old, watching this movie. And when we walked in, we noticed that there was a large female presence in the theater, and
Hmm.
we were kind of like, well, that's kind of odd, but whatever. Hey, if they like World War II movies, whatever. And I will tell you that it absolutely had an emotional reaction from myself because I was we were all expecting this, like, well, like I said, that this epic about Pearl Harbor, and it was not. It was a love story with
Right.
some with World War II sprinkled in for good
Okay.
measure.
There's a movie that the original movie was made in the 1930s, and they remade it 3 times since then. I've seen all four of them. And my favorite version is the one that came out like 1977, and that was Star is Born with Chris Christopherson and Barbara Streisand.
There you go.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I will tell you, since the panel is, and I mean no disrespect in this, but since the panel seems to be a little older, do you guys remember the TV show Dark Shadows?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I was probably the youngest person ever when the movie with Johnny Depp came out,
Oh, that was
because
hilarious.
my mother, when I came home from school, they were rerunning Dark Shadows,
Yes.
and my mother made it a point to have that show on the television at home every single day. And from a modern perspective, the effects, the storyline, like, it was not a good TV show. If that TV show would have come out in the late '90s when I saw it, it was terrible. It was so bad. But it made me appreciate the movie a lot more. And I will tell you, whenever I get the chance to see that movie, I love it. I
Yes.
absolutely I love it so
Well,
much.
I'll tell you what. I I grew up in the northeast end of Canton. Okay,
Okay.
we would run home to be in front of the TV by 4 o'clock to watch Dark Shadows. Every kid in the neighborhood watched Dark Shadows. I
I,
sat here and I went to the library. I found the whole series on DVD. I brought them home. I put them in. I watched the first 20 minutes of the first disc. I took them all back the next day. I'm like, what the hell were we thinking?
There's one scene that sticks out in my mind from that entire series, and it wasn't Barnabas Collins. I forget who was it that was the werewolf.
Quentin.
Okay, there was the scene where somebody opened a door and there was this grotesquely um, fake stuffed wolf that would
Oh,
okay, yes, so yeah, and they played the howling noise in the background and everything,
mhm.
and throughout the series you could hear the film crew, like you'd hear people coughing in the background and things like that. The
You know,
production was absolutely terrible,
there
but
is a movie.
I
There is
will
a
tell you,
movie. There is a movie. I can't remember the name of it, but I've watched it like 3 times. And the only reason I watch it is so I can laugh. Because it's like in the medieval time with, knights and dragons and all this stuff, right? In the
hmm?
background, you can hear a highway. You
Oh
hear,
goodness,
Yeah, they refer to that as anachronisms.
right. Now,
yes.
there is an episode of Bonanza where if you watch closely in one of the episodes, in the background, you see a plane flying over
Yes.
the hills of
Yes,
California.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yep.
Well,
I told
talking
my
about
I said to a friend of mine, well, that's Adam coming back. He's going to jump.
that's funny.
There you
Talking
go.
about films of World War II, the one that got me the most was Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a gem of a film, man.
That
That's but
you
I'll
know,
but I'll tell you the when I was an usher for about a year, right before I turned 18, and I got that job. Almost everybody from my high school, that was like one of the jobs that we got, because where I went to high school was the first multiplex on Long Island, and
okay.
so they were playing Sophie's Choice.
Oh, that was a good movie.
There you go.
And now I was 18, so that film was not directed toward my demographic. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Sam, DMSC. Um, but what I noticed was that all these older people were coming out of the film crying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what the fuck is this film about, right? So I knew who Meryl Streep was at that time. So I finally watched it and I was just like, Jesus, what a devastating film that is. And then, of course, Schindler's List.
Oof.
Schindler's List was good.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
now, again, people are going to think that I'm making this up, but I swear to you, I have no reason to make up stories about my life. But I took a chick to see that on a first date.
That's
Wow.
probably not the best idea.
I'll tell you a movie that
And
I will
she's
never go
Jewish
watch.
too.
Oh,
Ooh, ooh.
there is a movie I'll never go see again, and I'll tell you why afterwards. That movie was called The Mark of the Devil. And the reason why I'll never go
That's
see
an
that
old
again,
one.
because, yes, a young lady and I went to see that movie, okay? 9 months later, I became a daddy.
Yeah.
I'll never
Should
go
have
see that
pulled
movie
out.
again.
You should have pulled out.
But thank you.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm not
That
sure
wasn't
the
on my
film is to
mind at
blame
the
for that.
time, though.
Yeah, right. Now I will tell you. So in 1984, there was a certain movie that came out. I was born 1 month after the movie came out, and that movie was called Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
Red Dawn.
Now,
I love that movie.
now, listen. I had never seen that. I was never into finding that movie out to see it, all that stuff. And later on in life, I had started getting out in the world. I had a job. I started experiencing other people's opinions about politics and so on and so forth. And a lot of these people brought up Red Dawn because of 2A stuff and everything, right?
Yeah.
And there was this big this big yeah, there was this big idea that this was some great testament to to the whole 2A movement and blah blah blah. So finally, in my mid 30s, I was like, because I think around that time they remade Red Dawn,
Yes.
and I was like, let's go back and watch the original. And I cannot tell you the level of disappointment I had from all of the hype, from the buildup, from all of this, and I was like, wait, this is it? Where's the 2A stuff? And my wife was like, well, they did that thing with the registration and all that stuff in the town, and I was like, yeah, but they were an invading force. That makes sense. Like, I was looking at it like logically and trying to dismantle this movie. Like, wait, what's going on here? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I will tell you, it was a perfectly good 1980s movie.
Yeah.
However, not worth the hype. Not at all.
Well,
I saw it in
I
the
like.
80s when it came out. I thought it was ridiculous.
Well, I like the. I like the first one, and I like the remake. Okay,
Well,
but
I didn't bother
I
seeing
will
the
never.
remake.
Yep. I will
don't.
never.
It's
I
a
will
waste of
never
time.
go to the movie. I'll never go to a combat movie with my brother-in-law again because he has no idea what it's like to be in a firefight. Okay, you got these soldiers running across the field and they're pew pewing, and one soldier falls, another one runs up behind him, and he keeps going. And my brother-in-law says, "Well, I would have stopped and picked up the pew pew."
Yeah, right.
How many do
Okay.
you think you can carry while you're shooting?
This isn't Call of Duty. You can't pick up two.
No,
Yeah.
Discharging, yeah.
no.
We have
And
to
Yeah.
like,
avoid that
dude,
S word. It's discharging. But
yeah,
Yes.
Dubbins quoted the line from Red Dawn that
Wolverine.
just made that whole film jump the shark. Wolverines, like, get the
Yeah,
fuck out of here with that dumb
but,
shit.
but another thing is like I'll tell him all the time because he was in the Navy, okay, and he rigged parachutes, he repaired parachutes, and I'm not taking that away from him because we need parachute riggers, we need somebody to repair them,
Sure.
okay. But we're in this theater one day and we're watching. I think we went to see Hamburger Hill, and he started. I said, "Look, dude, you were a Navy seamstress. There's a big difference." He said, "I was a what?" I said, "You were a Navy seamstress."
Oh, that's hardcore.
He just looked at me and busted up laughing.
Yeah. Hey, well, you weren't wrong.
No, that's right.
Right. But
But
um,
let's face it, like these mechanized armies, it takes a lot of people working together to
Mhm.
make all that stuff work, man.
Yes, and you need each other. There is nobody in the military who is unimportant.
However,
correct.
I think films like Red Dawn are what make people think that fighting the government is a thing,
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
because it's just like how Disney ruins women's minds earlier.
Hmm.
Films like that, films like Top Gun, they make young
Mhm.
men think that it's all glory, and you're going to be in a going Mach
Well,
3 and some shit, and someone's going to be saying "I'll ride your tail anytime" or some whatever bullshit
Well,
line that was.
when I was of age, or almost close to of age, the commercials that I saw for the U.S. Marine Corps, was the Marine that would go out on that bridge with the sword and he fought the fire monster and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden it turned into the Few, the Proud, the Marines, and it was like, as a impressionable young male, I was like, I want to fight the fire monster. Holy crap! You know what I
I,
mean?
I tell you what, I had a friend of mine call me and says, "I need you to come over and talk to my son." I said, "What?" He said he wants to join the army and be a sniper.
Oh,
Well, okay. So I went over and I talked to him. I said, "Now, what makes you think you'll be a good sniper?" "Oh, well, when I played on my video game, I'm really good."
Oh Lord.
Well, you
Jesus Christ!
realize, in real life, it don't work that way.
Nope.
Well, let me bring up something right after I refer to Vicky. She mentioned The Right Stuff. Excellent film.
Yeah.
extremely long, but an extremely well done film. I love
Yeah.
that film because I grew up having to learn about manhood through films because I had weird examples in my life. My father wasn't around. My brother's 5 years older than me, but it wasn't his job to raise me, obviously. So I had to figure out what manhood was from, any place I could. And
Yep.
and The Right Stuff is one of those films where I was like, oh, look at this. This is what honor looks like. Um, but what was I going to bring up? There was a film that I was thinking about. Oh, not a film. I'm sorry. Are any of you familiar with the book Dear Mom?
Yes.
Yes.
That book I read somewhere in the 80s, I think, and that was and still is, aside from Saving Private Ryan, the most vivid depiction of the reality and the horror
Yes.
of these conflicts. Like,
The other
for
one.
those of you who don't know, and again, I can't say I recommend the book because it can be traumatizing, I think, but it is such a dose of reality because the reason why the book is called Dear Mom, and I think he was a Marine sniper.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, right. So every chapter starts off with a letter that he wrote to his mother.
Mhm. Yes.
And then he talks about the truth of what actually happened, you know, with regard to the letter that he wrote.
Hmm.
And the stuff that he described, I was like, this is just like and what I was impressed by also, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I was impressed by the kind of psychosis that it takes to be a Marine sniper.
Yes.
Because
There,
when
there's
this guy describes some of the like heroes of Marine snipers, and this one guy, I
Yeah.
forget his name, Hispanic dude that like was very like revered for a long time, but apparently he laid in the grass for 3 fucking days
Was
yes.
that doctor
while
from it last
I'm
Thursday?
Yep.
sorry,
Or was that Friday last week?
I couldn't hear what you said.
I don't remember when I twisted my ankle.
Danny, are you talking to us?
No, I'm sorry. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
mute my mic.
Sorry. So this guy laid in the grass for 3 days getting bitten by fire ants,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay? And laid still, didn't make a sound, and his target walked over him, and then he took him out. Like, that is like
Yep.
next
Are
level.
you
And then
talking
I
about
learned
Carlos
from the
Hathcock?
book, I learned from the book that apparently, and I don't know if this has changed, but back then, snipers basically didn't need orders. They essentially
No.
could do whatever they want. They could call in airstrikes. They could call in strikes from battleships, like
Yes.
level a
Artillery.
village. Here are the
Yes.
coordinates.
Yes.
Just level these
Well,
people.
here's what's messed up now. You lay in the grass, the sand, whatever, for 3 or 4 days. You finally get your target. You have to call in to get permission to take them out,
Hmm.
and you can be told no.
Right.
That's
Well,
it.
and I will tell you, as somebody who is active in this genre of hobby, if you will, I can't stand going down to my local range and being bothered by a simple flying
Yeah.
around me in the
Right.
hot weather. There's no way I could ever.
Well, see, that's what I
Wait.
told this young man. I
Well,
told this
hold
young
that
man. I
thought
said,
for a second, and just let me say hello to Dubbins. How you
okay.
doing?
I'm doing great. You were talking about Carlos Hathcock, right? I've
That
read that
sounds
book
like the
like
name
4 or 5
Carlos. Yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
His last name is Hathcock. So
Okay.
he is actually fully. I can't remember the ethnicity. It was definitely Eastern European, but for some reason his dad and himself took on the name Carlos, and he had something like 80 confirmed in
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know
That's
exactly
wild.
who you're talking about. I read that book when I was in incarceration,
Oh, you read Dear
like
Mom?
8 times.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about it's called Marine Sniper.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, we were talking about the book Dear Mom,
Dear Mom.
which is
So that was
another,
written by him most likely.
which no, it was written by another guy, I think, because he actually talked about Carlos. But
Yeah.
Joseph T. Ward.
Oh, got
thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Dear Mom was just, that was the thing that, like, you know, William Sherman is the one that said war is hell, but like that was the thing that made me understand exactly what he meant.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
that,
what I
like
was.
because the horrors that he depicted, what
Mm,
Americans were doing to people illegally, by the
yeah.
way, was just horrifying. But
Yeah.
even if it was legal, like to call in an airstrike, let's say from a battleship, and when it's all done, like the way he described it, I still remember. I only read the book once, but I still remember it. He said he was laying on the ground holding on to a tree, and he said the earth looked like it was waving under him.
Hmm.
And then he said, 5 minutes later, there was a 50-foot crater where a village used to be.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just horrifying,
Yeah.
and we are
Well.
conditioned to think of them as the enemy, but these are human beings.
Yes.
And then
Right.
That was when
that's the stuff that's legal. And then when you go beyond that to the real horrifying shit, it just is mind blowing.
Well, there
so
is one photographer, one photograph out of Vietnam. Even today, in high school when I saw it, it made me cry. When I was in the army, I seen it. It made me cry. Even today, I just seen it on YouTube today. It made me cry.
Now
It
it's
was
one
a
of two
child.
possibilities. Was it the girls
Yeah,
running or the guy that was executed?
the girl running out of the village that's been hit by
yeah,
napalm.
from
Yeah.
Oh,
oh, napalm. Yeah.
They actually
yeah.
brought that child. Well, she wasn't a child, but they actually brought her to the United States and tried to do skin grafts on her.
Yeah.
And she's, I don't know if she's still alive today, but back in the '80s she was. But like what I told this young man, I said, look, the video game is not the same thing.
Correct.
You know,
On a
when
hundred
you,
different levels.
oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I said,
Well,
and you realize you have to lay there and piss yourself.
I will
And
tell you.
also defecate.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say
Yes.
that too.
But
Yes.
even
Uh,
if
I,
you don't, let's say
Yeah,
for some reason you get in and out real quick, you're still taking human life.
yes.
That's your
yeah.
fucking
Well, and
job.
that's not the only thing. There may be another sniper watching you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, in
Right.
Dear Mom, he
They're
told
just
the
waiting for your. They're
story
just
of
waiting.
when he got a lock on the other guy and sent the projectile through the scope.
Scope.
Yes.
Yep.
That's fucking nuts.
Well, I
So
will tell you there's a story that is somewhat reminiscent of this. It's from the Korean conflict, where the USS Wisconsin, basically the captain lost his cool and ended up leveling a hillside with the battery that they executed from the battleship. And it was based on, um, the North Koreans had sent smaller munitions at the direction of the battleship.
Right.
And it was one of those moments in U.S. history where, a lot of people refer to it now as "don't touch the boats," right? Because anytime somebody touches America's boats, that's when we get really involved with things. And the North Koreans tried to
like it.
touch the USS Wisconsin, and the USS Wisconsin ended up responding with, not excuse me, with
Blinding
eliminating
fury.
the hillside.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
the
when I was
hillside was no more. It
But
was,
I mean, think about it. Think about what we're talking
but
about. And like
yes,
we're all in our respective dwellings, chilling out, having a nice conversation on TikTok. What would happen right now if one of those munitions fell through your window or your roof and
Oh
went
my
off
God.
and
Yeah.
just took
That
out
much to think
everybody in
about.
there. And I want people to remember that when if you ever have the occasion of wondering why so many countries hate us, stop wondering. Stop
Yeah.
wondering,
No,
please.
you are correct.
Like,
Absolutely.
because this is what we do around the world. We either do it ourselves or we facilitate it. So we've earned, and I don't want to say we, America has earned the hatred.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because too many people
Absolutely.
just trying to live their fucking lives just like we're doing right now. We want to get up. We want to go to work. We want to feed our family. We want a few orgasms along the way. That's what everybody wants.
Yes.
That's
What's
what everybody
that?
I,
wants,
I,
right?
I wish that we lived in a world when a U.S. carrier strike group arrived in your locality, that what that meant was food. What that meant was, you know what I mean? Not munitions, not, and what normally a U.S. carrier strike group represents, but something where people across the world would look at that and go, okay, we're good now. We're gonna be able to eat. We're gonna be able
That
to survive.
that hasn't
And
happened since Pinatubo erupted. Let's be real.
well,
And that was
and
1990.
correct, and that's why I'm not in favor of a lot of anything that's happened ever since the Kuwait situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, because what you realize,
So sorry, my
I
my
go
uncle
ahead.
was in Westpac on Peleliu, and he had to do exactly what I was saying, where they had to bring a bunch of food after Mount Pinatubo erupted. We
sure,
felt it in North Hollywood, California, when it erupted.
Yeah.
yeah.
I I I flew by it. I think it was like 6 months later, and it was just horrible.
Yeah.
I
I
had a
mean,
friend of
war
mine,
really is hell,
I had a
man.
friend of mine at Fort Hood
Yeah.
who was, remember the movie We Were Soldiers?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I had a friend of mine who was there. And the things he told me, it was like the movie was like Disneyland compared to what the real thing was.
Well, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a New Zealand film called We Were One, not We Were Warriors, Once Were Warriors. That's a very interesting film. Kind of an indie film, but a very interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. I
Um,
will tell you that when I was in high school, and we're talking from ninth grade to 12th grade, a lot of my teachers were of the age of late 60s, early 70s, of the Vietnam era. And basically from ninth grade to 12th grade, they took it upon themselves to really remind us the perspectives of everybody, of all the teachers, because we had teachers that were at Kent State protesting. We had teachers
Hmm.
that were serving in Vietnam. We had we had everybody. We were and I will tell you, it was a good time for all of this to happen, because we remember what happened in September of 2001, and it really changed my perspective on going somewhere to a different land to, you know, give democracy to people under the guise of massive military operations. And I mean, my science teacher from 11th grade was a Vietnam vet, and he was one of these people that any loud noise, anything would set him off. And
Right.
one of my fellow students decided one day to throw his science book against the ground to see, oh, well, we'll see if this actually works. It got to the point after the loud bang had happened. My teacher hid under his desk, and as you know, we're talking like, I think I was 15 at the time. To watch somebody's mental capacity leave them, and then just change from like the funny hokey kind of science teacher to some guy that's crying under his desk absolutely had a real world effect on me. And I it affects me to this day.
You know,
Remembering watching that happen.
you know what I do when fireworks are around? I turn the music up loud. I put my earplugs in, then I put my ear covers on.
Isn't it weird that
Oh,
on the 4th of July, part of the celebration is mimicking what goes on in a conflict?
Yes.
How weird
correct.
is that?
Right?
And the
And
rockets' red glare, I mean, fucking weird, man.
the boom booms bursting in air.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
second and third, fourth verse.
Well,
Well,
and I will tell you, it's I so for the 4th of July, since this was brought up, I try to use as quiet of fireworks as I can. So like Roman candles, things like that, because we do have a lot of neighbors that live around me that lived during, that served during the Vietnam
right.
era, and I'm
Mhm.
not trying to do that kind of stuff to them.
Get a sparkler. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
those
Oh,
are
trust me,
nice.
my kids love sparklers. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
those are fun.
Turn the television on and watch fireworks on TV with no sound.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's interesting too because fireworks do something to your brain, which is essentially you get mesmerized just because of the
Yes.
way our brain's
And
wiring is
desensitized.
organized. It's, lights
Yeah.
in the sky just make us like, zombified in a way.
It
But
reminds
Well,
me when I was 18 years old, my girlfriend and I we went to oh what Bolivar, Ohio.
okay.
We went down there to watch the fireworks, and we're watching them. All of a sudden, we got the whole crowd going ooh ah ooh.
right, yeah, that's I had the good fortune of being in the city when one of my buddies lived in a building by the East River that had access to the rooftop. So on one 4th of July, somewhere in the 90s, I got up on a rooftop and was able to see the show. And of course, it's beautiful, but it's dumb. Like, why are we mimicking a horrible thing? I don't get how that's part of a celebration. But anyway, gents, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna forego final thoughts tonight because this has been a wonderful conversation. It's gone all over the
Yes,
Can
place,
I
yes.
point
which
you
is
in
the
the
kind of
direction of the
conversation
book
I
that I
love to
read?
have. We started off
Hmm.
talking about current events and the government and the ruination of America and the bullshit conflict that we manufactured, and we got onto films and other good stuff. So I do appreciate it. I never take for granted that you could be spending your time anywhere else, and you chose to spend it here with me. I sincerely appreciate it. I respect all of you gentlemen, and I appreciate your input and your feedback and your commentary. So I'm back tomorrow night. Hopefully, if I'm lucky enough to wake up tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Till then, peace, love, and granola.
Yo,
Have a great night.
Yep.
Yep. Have a good night,
Yoda,
everybody.
Charles
Good
W.
night, everyone.
Henderson, Marine Sniper.
Yep.
That's